You know how sometimes in a really quiet moment, you sort of catch a glimpse of yourself? Not quite how the world sees you, but something deeper.
Yes. Like looking into still water.
Exactly, like pausing before a still pond, seeing that reflection. And, well, I think that inner image, that's really where our confidence starts, wouldn't you say?
Indeed. That still point within, it's often undisturbed, isn't it, by all the noise outside. It holds a kind of profound truth about who we really are, our confidence. It truly blossoms from that inner knowing.
But it can be so hard to actually see that reflection clearly. I mean, really see it. We're just so used to judging, picking apart every little thing we think is an imperfection. So this time we're hoping to explore how to look inward with maybe a kinder eye to understand what actually shapes how we perceive ourselves.
That journey inward, it often takes the most courage, doesn't it?
It really does.
And at its heart, there's a simple truth, one the Buddha shared so beautifully. You yourself, as much as anybody in the entire universe, deserve your love and affection.
That hits deep.
It's foundational, isn't it? Self-acceptance isn't some kind of luxury or self-indulgence. It's the very ground,
Yeah.
the bedrock, where genuine confidence can actually stand.
And it makes you wonder, though, why does it feel so hard to embrace that? We give compassion to friends so easily, but turning that same gentleness inward can feel almost, wrong. I remember reading a story about a man, Purna. He carried so much shame about his past, felt unworthy because of where he came from.
Purna, yes.
And he asked the Buddha, how could he ever feel confident with that kind of heavy burden?
Purna's struggle, it really resonates, doesn't it?
Yeah.
That sense of being defined by past mistakes or perceived flaws. It's a shadow so many of us carry.
Yeah.
And the Buddha's response, it offered such a clear path. He asked Purna, essentially, if you had gold coins but they were covered in dirt, would you just throw them away?
Well, no, of course not. You'd clean them off.
Precisely.
Yeah.
Now the Buddha's point, your inherent worth is like those gold coins. The dirt, that's just the doubts and fears clouding how you see yourself.
Right.
Cleanse your mind, he suggested, and you'll see the treasure that's always been there, right underneath. It's such a powerful image, isn't it?
It really is.
Recognizing that our core value, it just is.
Yeah.
Even when our view is all muddied by negativity.
It totally shifts your perspective. It's not about pretending the dirt isn't there, but seeing it as something you can wash away to reveal what's actually valuable underneath. And it's fascinating how modern psychology kind of echoes this. Finding that self-compassion, treating ourselves like we treat a friend actually builds real self-esteem, makes us more resilient.
Absolutely. When we can quiet that harsh inner critic, that relentless judging voice, well, we create space for growth, for learning, just for being present with ourselves, really.
Okay, so how do we start? How do we actually begin to gaze into this mirror of the mind with more clarity, more kindness?
Well, perhaps the very first step is simply noticing. Noticing what thoughts are actually there without immediately grabbing onto them or pushing them away.
Just observe.
Just observing. Recognizing those moments of self-criticism or comparison. It's like you said, stepping back from a rushing stream just to watch the water flow.
Okay.
And in that simple act of observing, a real shift can start to happen. Often, the standards we hold ourselves to are just so much harsher than any standard we'd apply to someone we care about.
Oh, definitely.
So asking that question, what would I say to a friend who felt this way? That can be incredibly revealing. It just highlights the huge gap between our inner talk and our outward compassion.
It's almost always a shock when you do that, isn't it? We're so much gentler with friends. Why is it so hard to offer ourselves that same understanding? That's where I think practices like mindfulness meditation could be really helpful. Just taking a few quiet minutes each day, focusing on the breath, watching thoughts come and go without judgment.
Exactly. Even just 5 minutes daily. It can be transformative. It's not really about stopping the thoughts. That's like trying to stop the wind, right?
Right, impossible.
It's more about acknowledging them. Noticing, there's a critical thought, or there's comparison or fear, and then gently letting them drift by like clouds. This practice cultivates a deeper awareness, a sort of spaciousness between our true self and all those swirling thoughts of self-doubt.
And when you create that space, that distance, you start to see, oh, those critical thoughts aren't actually me. They're just thoughts. They don't define my real value.
Precisely.
It reminds me, everyone who's ever done anything meaningful, anyone inspiring, they all started somewhere with their own unique stuff, their own path. They didn't get there by trying to be a copy of someone else.
Confidence isn't about reaching some impossible standard of perfection. It's about recognizing that inherent worth the gold beneath the dirt and trusting your own ability to learn, to grow, even to handle setbacks.
So it loops back to acceptance. But it's important, like you said, acceptance isn't just giving up or feeling defeated. It's not passive resignation at all.
Not at all. Acceptance, in this sense, is actually a deeply courageous act. It's the honest look, seeing where we are, really looking in that mirror of the mind, and then kindly but firmly affirming, I am enough.
I am enough.
And that's not the end goal. That's the solid ground, the foundation you build real, lasting confidence on.
Okay, let's dig deeper into this mindfulness idea.
Mm.
You use the image of the mind as a river, and that really stuck with me. Sometimes it's calm, peaceful. Other times it's like this raging current carrying all sorts of things, emotions, memories, worries. And it's so easy to just feel swept away by it all, isn't it? Totally overwhelmed.
It is. Without that conscious awareness, we can easily get lost in the flow, the ceaseless activity of our thoughts. And that's precisely where mindfulness, in its truest sense, becomes so vital.
Right.
In Buddhist teachings, mindfulness isn't just a buzzword, it's fundamental. The Buddha taught that so much of our suffering comes from our attachment to these fleeting thoughts and feelings. We cling to pleasure, resist pain, dwell on the past, worry about the future.
That makes total sense. We're always either grasping for something or pushing something away. It sounds exhausting.
It is exhausting.
Yeah.
And mindfulness offers a way out of that cycle. It allows us to observe these thoughts, these emotions, as they arise without judgment, crucially, and without getting carried away. It creates a kind of space and inner stillness, even amidst the mind's constant chatter.
And this links straight back to confidence, right? Because so much self-doubt comes from those very attachments clinging to unrealistic hopes, fearing failure, replaying mistakes over and over.
Precisely. Think about the Four Noble Truths. While they address suffering broadly, they give us profound insight into our self-doubt too.
How so?
Well, the first truth acknowledges life involves difficulty, dukkha.
Okay.
The second says this suffering comes from craving and aversion, wanting things to be different than they are. The third offers hope. Suffering can cease by letting go of that craving. And the fourth lays out the path, the eightfold path, which includes right mindfulness. So think about it. A lot of our lack of confidence comes from resisting reality, right? Wishing we were different, wishing circumstances were different. Mindfulness helps us see things clearly as they actually are.
So applying that to confidence, it means acknowledging that, yeah, challenges happen, setbacks are normal, and fighting that, clinging to a perfect outcome, just makes the self-doubt worse.
Exactly. When we accept reality with open eyes, instead of through the filter of how we wish it were, we release so much inner conflict. And this acceptance, paradoxically maybe, empowers us to act more boldly. We start to see failure not as a final verdict on our worth, but just as feedback, part of the journey of learning.
You mentioned the story of the Buddha meditating under the Bodhi tree and Mara trying to distract him. That's such a powerful image for facing those inner demons, those whispers of doubt and fear.
It really is. Mara represents everything that obscures our clarity, temptation, fear, doubt, all of it.
Yeah.
Mara threw everything at the Buddha, but the Buddha remained present, focused, unwavering.
And touching the earth.
Yes, that gesture of touching the earth, it was a grounding, a profound connection to the present moment, the here and now. His steadfast awareness allowed him to see through the illusions Mara presented.
So the lesson for us today isn't that we won't have those Mara moments, those inner storms.
No, that.
But that confidence is about our ability to stay centered, to stay present even when those storms are raging inside.
Precisely. And a very simple, yet deeply profound way to cultivate this inner steadiness is through mindful breathing.
It's just breathing.
Just breathing.
Yeah.
Find a quiet spot, maybe gently close your eyes, bring your attention fully to the sensation of your breath, the rise and fall, the coolness inhaling, the warmth exhaling. Maybe try inhaling deeply for a count of 4, holding gently for 4, then exhaling slowly for 6.
4, hold 4, out 6.
Just repeating that cycle. It brings us right back to the present moment. The breath becomes our anchor in the constant flow of experience.
It's amazing how something so basic can be so grounding. When my mind starts racing, just focusing on my breath, it really does pull me back to center.
Because the breath is always here, always now. It's a constant point of return, pulling us away from the grip of anxious thoughts or self-criticism. And regular practice, it genuinely impacts our nervous system. We learn to respond to stress with more calm, more clarity, and that naturally builds confidence.
And it's wild that science is actually showing this now, how mindfulness can literally reshape the brain. You mentioned the amygdala, the fear center becoming less reactive.
Yes.
And other areas for decision-making, emotional regulation, getting stronger connections. It's like we're actively training our brains for resilience.
That's the remarkable potential, yes. And it goes beyond just sitting meditation. It's about bringing that awareness into daily life too. You know, those moments you're rushing on autopilot, feeling disconnected from your body or emotions.
All the time.
Just pausing, briefly checking in. What am I feeling?
Yeah.
What's my intention here? These small moments of awareness help us stay aligned with our values, our goals.
So confidence seen this way, it becomes less about needing external validation, what others think, and more about that internal alignment, that deep trust in ourselves to navigate life with all its ups and downs. It sounds like a quieter kind of confidence, more grounded.
Exactly, like that river you mentioned earlier. Carving its path not always through force, but through a steady, mindful presence.
Okay, so let's shift focus a bit. We've talked a lot about the inner landscape, self-perception, mindfulness, but confidence doesn't just exist in a vacuum, right? It's also about how we connect with others, how we relate to the world.
Absolutely.
And this feels like where compassion comes in, which is just so central to Buddhist philosophy, isn't it?
It is truly a cornerstone. Compassion, karuna, at its heart, it's more than just feeling sorry for someone. It's the active wish, the deep desire to alleviate suffering, both in ourselves and, importantly, in others too.
An active wish.
Yes. And perhaps surprisingly, cultivating this compassion is actually a deeply powerful way to nurture a lasting, authentic confidence.
You told the story earlier of Angulimala, the bandit who caused so much harm. That felt like such a stark example of transformation through compassion.
Angulimala's story really shines a light on that transformative power. Here was someone seemingly defined by violence, by inflicting pain, yet when he encountered the Buddha,
Who wasn't scared.
who met his aggression not with fear, but with this profound stillness and truth, saying, "I have already stopped. It is you who must stop." Those words, they planted a seed. And Angulimala began to truly see the suffering he was causing and how it mirrored his own inner turmoil.
And that turning away from harming others, that was also turning towards his own healing.
Precisely. When we direct our energy towards easing suffering, whether it's our own or someone else's, we begin to heal those inner wounds. Modern science backs this up too, Acts of kindness, compassion, they release neurochemicals like oxytocin, dopamine.
You feel good stuff.
Exactly. They boost our mood, our sense of self-worth, our resilience. It becomes this beautiful feedback loop. By offering compassion, we ourselves are uplifted.
This makes me think of metta, loving kindness practice. It's about actively cultivating that warmth and goodwill towards everyone, starting with yourself and spreading outwards.
Exactly. Meditation is about intentionally directing those feelings, love, kindness, goodwill. Often you start with yourself, repeating phrases like, "May I be well, may I be happy, may I be free from suffering."
Okay.
Then you gradually extend those wishes outward to loved ones, then acquaintances, then strangers, and eventually even to those you find difficult.
That last part sounds challenging. Directing loving kindness towards someone difficult, it can feel really artificial at first, maybe even impossible.
That's a very common experience. The practice isn't about instantly forcing feelings that aren't genuine. It's more about setting the intention, planting the seed of goodwill, even if it feels small or tentative, and just allowing it to gradually soften things over time. It helps break down the walls we build. It fosters that sense of interconnectedness.
Like the Buddha said about lighting candles from one flame, happiness doesn't decrease by being shared.
Beautifully put, yes.
So practically speaking, how do we bring this into daily life? We can't all suddenly become, beacons of compassion overnight.
No, of course not. It's truly in the small, everyday moments. A genuine smile to a stranger, holding a door, really listening when someone talks, without just waiting for your turn. These seemingly tiny gestures create ripples. They benefit others, yes, but they also reinforce our own sense of agency, our ability to make a positive difference, which boosts confidence.
And for a more focused practice, you suggested setting aside a few minutes for structured metta meditation, visualizing, sending out that warmth.
Yes, even just a few moments of quiet visualization. Imagine a warm, gentle light starting in your heart, filling you up, then extending out to loved ones, your community, eventually all beings. It's a conscious cultivation of those compassionate feelings.
And the link to confidence here is, it shifts our focus away from our own internal anxieties and doubts towards making a positive impact externally.
Precisely. When our attention moves outward towards the well-being of others, our own sense of self-worth tends to rise naturally. We see firsthand the positive effect we can have, however small. And that's a powerful antidote to self-obsession and that nagging inner critic.
And compassion also fosters humility, doesn't it? Recognizing everyone, including ourselves, is imperfect and struggling in some way. It dissolves that need to feel superior or constantly prove ourselves.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It allows us to just be more comfortable in our own skin. Knowing our value isn't tied to achievements or external approval, but to our capacity for love, for connection. Think of inspiring leaders throughout history, often driven by this deep compassion for humanity.
It makes you think about times you've received unexpected kindness, how powerful that feels. It gives you hope, makes you feel seen. And the idea of being that source of light for someone else, that feels genuinely empowering.
It truly is. Confidence that's rooted in compassion is resilient. It's enduring. It's built on love for ourselves and for others. It doesn't crumble when things go wrong because it's not dependent on success or failure. It really echoes that wisdom. If you light a lamp for someone else, it will also brighten your path.
So we've explored self-acceptance, mindfulness, compassion. Now this last piece, the courage to be vulnerable. It almost sounds like a contradiction, doesn't it? We usually think confidence means being strong, impenetrable.
That is the common view, yes.
Yeah.
Our culture often pushes this image of strength as, well, never showing weakness, always having the answers, appearing flawless.
Right.
But from a Buddhist perspective, true strength isn't found in hiding our imperfections, but in embracing them. Real confidence isn't about projecting some illusion of perfection. It's about the bravery to just be authentically ourselves, vulnerabilities and all.
You mentioned the lotus flower before, rising from the mud to bloom beautifully. That feels very relevant here. Strength emerging from the messy stuff, not despite it.
Exactly. The lotus is such a potent symbol for this. It shows that beauty, strength, enlightenment, they can emerge from the muddy waters of life's challenges. It teaches that difficulty doesn't have to diminish us. It can actually be the ground from which we grow stronger.
It makes me think of all the times I've held back from speaking up, from trying something new just because I was afraid. Afraid of failing, afraid of being judged. It really boils down to that fear of showing vulnerability, doesn't it?
It often does. Yet the Buddha had this profound insight. The greatest victory is the conquest of oneself. And conquering oneself in this light means having the courage to acknowledge our imperfections, our uncertainties. There's deep strength in being honest about where we are, without pretense.
Like the story of Kisagotami, searching for that mustard seed from a house untouched by death. Her journey from frantic grief to realizing that loss, that suffering, is universal.
Kisagotami's journey is so deeply human. Her initial denial, her profound grief. It eventually led her to understand impermanence, the shared vulnerability of all beings. By acknowledging her own pain, she connected with everyone else's potential for pain. And in that connection, she found a kind of strength, a profound acceptance.
It really shows how vulnerability connects us rather than isolating us. When we let ourselves be seen, flaws and all, it actually creates space for real understanding.
Precisely. When we admit our struggles, our fears, our limits, we tap into that shared human experience. We realize, oh, I'm not alone in feeling this. And that realization, maybe paradoxically, strengthens our sense of self. Embracing vulnerability breaks down the isolating illusion of needing to be perfect and lets us step into the warmth of genuine human connection, which is vital for true confidence.
It's fascinating how modern psychology and these ancient Buddhist ideas seem to really align here, like Brené Brown talking about vulnerability as a source of creativity, connection, authentic living.
They do converge beautifully. Reframing vulnerability not as weakness, but as courage. That's key. Every time we speak our truth, admit we made a mistake, or step outside our comfort zone, that's an act of bravery. It's about being willing to show up as we are, even when it feels risky.
And for people who find that really hard, maybe starting small, like journaling, just exploring those feelings privately without judgment.
Exactly. Even just 10 minutes a day, journaling about moments of insecurity or fear. What triggered it? How did I respond? What can I learn? It builds self-awareness and self-compassion around those vulnerable spots.
And creating small rituals, like lighting a candle, saying an affirmation, things that gently remind us of our humanity, our commitment to growth.
Yes, simple personal rituals can be grounding. Reminders of our interconnectedness, our inherent worth despite imperfections, and our ongoing journey.
It's important to clarify, though, vulnerability isn't about just spilling everything to everyone, right? It's not oversharing or constantly seeking validation.
No, precisely. It's about inner honesty first, and then selective trust. Sharing appropriately with people who have earned that trust, True confidence comes from knowing deep down that you don't need to prove anything. You are enough as you are, imperfections included. It loops back to that self-acceptance we started with, extending it to all parts of ourselves.
And when you think about truly inspiring people, often they do talk openly about their failures, their struggles. It's almost like that willingness to be vulnerable makes them more relatable, more impactful.
Absolutely. Authenticity builds trust. And vulnerability is a huge part of authenticity. When we show up as we really are, it gives others permission to do the same. It creates this ripple effect of empowerment.
So as we kind of wrap up this deep dive, it feels like confidence isn't about building thicker walls or projecting this invincible image at all. It's more about gently peeling back the layers, embracing our shared humanity, warts and all, and trusting our own capacity to learn and grow through life's inevitable challenges.
That is beautifully put. Confidence is absolutely an ongoing process, isn't it? Like that lotus flower slowly unfolding. It's shaped by our experiences, and it blossoms more fully as we integrate these threads: acceptance, mindfulness, compassion, and yes, the courage to be vulnerable.
And by weaving these together, it feels like the outcome isn't just being more confident in the usual sense, but becoming more fully ourselves, maybe more radiant, even a source of hope for others.
Precisely. A quiet, resilient strength that radiates outwards. So, as you go about your day, perhaps just take a quiet moment to let these ideas settle. Consider how one small piece might weave into the fabric of your own life.
And maybe just ponder this. What inner strength is waiting to emerge as you continue walking your own unique path of self-discovery? The journey is yours, always unfolding, with courage and a gentle heart.